Yo, peeps, just wanted to do a follow-up video. I'm certain everyone's seen the news that Andrew Dessler, professor of atmospheric sciences at Texas A&M University, appeared on Joe Rogan, where he stated that there was no debate on the fact of climate change, which is indeed true. Humans are warming the planet. We caused this. And yet, Rogan insisted that there be a debate for the average person. Well, the average person is a complete moron, and they wouldn't even understand if you spelled it out to them in black and white language. Sorry, Rogan. Your audience just isn't that up to par. And I want to mention a while back, before COP, Greta did an interview, and she said, we don't know what will wake people up, or what will lead to the change. And I just want to say, as an elder Capricorn and someone who respects her, that there is no waking up. Okay? There is no fixing. And finally, we've arrived with so much global attention on this subject to a New York Post article written yesterday called, it's an opinion piece, and I'm hesitant to read this, but it does state factual numbers. It does state references to institutions like Bank of America and other name brands that wouldn't lie about this. They have no way to. But the title is, The Green Agenda is Too Expensive. We need a better way to fight climate change. I'm going to go to the side real quick and say there is no other way. Okay? Law of thermodynamics states you cannot force a system. The energy that you put into making something, you can't use that same energy to revert it back to something else. It would take 10 times the amount of energy. Don't quote me on that, but a considerable amount of much more energy than it took to build the system. And the fact that we waited till 2022, hello, has a picture here, and it says reducing emissions by 80% will cost the United States more than $2.1 trillion every year from 2050. I'm just going to read straight from the article. Quote, energy costs are climbing out of control. A gallon of gas costs nearly $1 more than a year ago. Americans are experiencing sticker shock this winter on home heating costs. Though part of this is due to the world restarting after the pandemic, climate policies are increasingly driving prices up. We need to change direction. Fossil fuels still deliver a vast majority of energy. The European Union puts climate at the top of its political agenda, yet more than 80% of its primary energy needs are met by fossil fuels, according to the International Energy Agency. Despite endless environmental talk, solar and wind contribute only 3% of Europe's total energy. Making a transition from fossil fuels to green energy is costly. Solar and wind can only deliver electricity, which accounts for less than a fifth of total energy consumption. Moreover, as Europe is leaning on unreliable sources like wind leaves households vulnerable. Wind speeds are unusually low for most of 2021, causing much of Europe's current energy pain. When the sun doesn't shine or wind doesn't blow, prices rise quickly and we have to revert to fossil fuels for backup. Batteries are inadequate and inexpensive, easily quadrupling solar electricity costs and failing to provide much power. In 2021, Europe only had the battery capacity to back up less than 1.5 minutes of its average electricity usage. By 2030, with 10 times the stock of batteries and somewhat more usage needed, they'll have enough to cover for 12 minutes. As countries move to net zero carbon emissions, the target endorsed by President Joe Biden, the European Union, and many others, costs will escalate much higher again. I want to take a break and say for a second, for all you smart Alex out there, I know none of this is going to work. I know the aerosol masking effect is keeping us cool. I am just stating this so for the clarity, for funsies, okay? Just so we know, if we were to ideally convert, this is what we're looking at. The Bank of America, continuing, quote, the Bank of America has found that achieving net zero will cost $150 trillion over 30 years, almost twice the combined annual GDP of every country on Earth. The annual cost of $5 trillion is more than all of the world's governments and households spend on every year on education. That estimate is based on fanciful assumptions that costs are spread efficiently, with big emitters like China, India cutting the most. But India says it will keep moving forward towards net zero if the rest of the world pays its $1 trillion by 2030, something that won't happen. Most cuts will likely happen only in rich countries, which mean a relatively trifling cut to global emissions. The rich world will get all pain for little gain. Continuing, in a new study, McKinsey found that most poorest nations in Africa would have to pay more than 10% of their total incomes every year toward climate policy. This is more than these nations combined spend on education and health. This is not only implausibly, but also immoral on a continent where almost 500 million people still live in abject poverty. Research published in Nature finds that reducing emissions just 80% will cost the United States more than $2.1 trillion every year from 2050, or more than $5,000 per person per year. The cost of achieving Biden's promised 100% reductions, which, quote side, I don't think he ever said we'll have 100% reductions. I don't think he's ever said that, but continuing just for the sake of the argument. All of this is for the sake of the argument. Again, guys, no need to go crazy in the comments. To put this in context, continuing, quote, to put this in context, the annual U.S. cost of World War II is estimated at $1 trillion in today's money. Every year, by 2050, climate policy could cost Americans more than twice what they paid during the Second World War. Moreover, energy policy will turbocharge inflation. BOA, Bank of America, estimates it will lead to an additional 3% of greenflation. This will reduce growth dramatically. Side note, we can't reduce growth. It's endless growth model, guys. Keep going. Quote, most people agree climate change is a priority, but surveys show few people are willing to spend more than a few $100s a year on climate policies. Asking people to spend tens or hundreds times more is a recipe for failure. This isn't an argument to do nothing, but just to be smarter. To ensure we can transition from fossil fuels, we need to ramp up research and development to innovate down the price of green energy. We should invest across all options, including fusion, fission, storage, biofuel, and other sources. Only when green energy is cheaper than fossil fuels will the world be able to and willing to make the transition. Otherwise, today's energy prices are just a taste of things to come. Quote, this is all written from Bjorn Lomborg's latest book, False Alarm, How Climate Change Panic Costs Us Trillions, Hurts the Poor, and Fails to Fix the Planet. Well, what other solution do you have for it? I know this guy. He's an absolute nut job. I don't care what Jordan Peterson says. There's no other solution, dude. We're heading into complete apocalypse. You're going to see billions of people die. We're going to be squashed like a bug, as Paul puts it. Yeah, just wanted to put this out there. It's done. Enjoy your time now. Live with excellence. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll chat with you guys later. See ya.